Okay, it's starting right now.
Thanks, Brad. All right, I'd like to call to order our regular city council meeting for Tuesday, February 16th.
Okay, it's starting right now.
2021. And will someone mute their microphone, please? Whoever's watching YouTube at the same time. All right. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Sylvia, roll call.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
Council President Rosner.
Here.
Councilor Gross.
Here.
Councilor Garland.
Here.
Councilor Young.
Here.
Councilor Griffin.
Here.
And Councilor Scott.
Here.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. We have approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Russell made the motion. Renee seconded. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda this evening. Item A is approval of the February 2nd, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Item B is resolution 2021-011, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract amendment for the Rock Creek Sanitary Sewer Upsizing Project, Phase 1. Item C is resolution 2021-012, appointing the budget officer for fiscal year 2021-22.
Move consent.
Second.
Second.
Renee moved and seconded by, I'm not sure who was first.
Kim.
Kim, all in favor of the motion to approve consent, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Next on our agenda is citizen comments. Sylvia, I think we have at least one citizen comment or 2.
Correct. So we have a letter, Mayor and Council, that was sent to you earlier, so I'll just read it into the record. So this letter comes from Julie Nader, and it starts with, "My name is Julie Nader, and I reside on Rickard Place in Sherwood. I realize you have a lot to discuss, manage, and accomplish in your meetings, and I'm grateful for the many volunteer hours you give Sherwood and our citizens. Nevertheless, I think you would be appreciative of my interest in having Sherwood be an attractive, livable town. The distasteful billboards in our growing town have been my concern since I moved to Sherwood in 2002. Last year on January 20th, 2020, I testified at a city council meeting concerning the tacky billboards on Route 99. As Route 99 is the main thoroughfare through our historic town, they are an eyesore and should be taken down now. The company has had ample time to benefit from the installation of these ugly billboards. The ordinance says that they should have been removed in June 2011. They are tacky and often advertise services in other towns." From my September 2011 letter, quote, "As elected representatives of the whole community, and most certainly the homeowners and businesses who support the city with our taxes, send our children to Sherwood schools, and purchase goods in Sherwood stores, we hope that you will uphold our ordinances and that our laws and ordinances are respected and obeyed. Surely we are not intimidated by large companies or corporations when we have the interests of our greater community at stake." End quote. From my April 2015 letter, quote, "Why do citizens and city staff work for months on honing ordinances if they are not to be instituted or enforced? What kind of respect can our community or any local business have here for our ordinances if we allow big businesses to simply ignore them?" End quote. Now, 10 years later, the ordinances has not been enforced. Does this city government, mayor, and city council have the will and the courage to end this illegal pollution in Sherwood? Thank you for the opportunity to express my concerns. Julie Nader.
Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, Julie, for that comment. It is still on our radar. It doesn't happen easily. I'll just put it that way for now. Next on our agenda is new business. We have just one item under new business, resolution 2021-013, authorizing the city manager to sign a contract amendment with the Washington County on behalf of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services to extend the Public Library Services Agreement and Information Services Network Agreement. Kristen.
Hello there. Good evening. Good to see everybody. What you have before you is a resolution to authorize the city manager to sign a contract amendment with WCCLS to extend the Library Services Agreement and Information Services Agreement until June 30th of 2022. The extension will give WCCLS and the Executive Board time to review and evaluate the current IGA and distribution formula and make recommendations to future IGAs. It is expected that by this time next year, we will have a new IGA in front of you that will be used for the remainder of the 5-year levy cycle, which expires in June of 2026. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? Don't be shy.
Sure, I'll jump in. Given your introduction there, Kristen, it sounds like this is a not normal situation that we have to do this extension. Can you maybe talk a little bit about why that is?
Yeah, often we've had a IGA with them for a number of years, and often they do just extend it for the length of the levy cycle. So for a 4-year period or for a 5-year period. But really what they want to do is be able to take a look at the IGA this time and potentially make some adjustments. And in order to buy some time to do that and really have the executive board dive into it, they want to just break it off, take the year to do that, and then apply it to the remainder 4 years of the term. So it's not unusual for us to extend them. It's more unusual that we're going to take a deep dive into the IGA and make some adjustments. But it's very typical that we just have made amendment after amendment on the current IGA, and it's quite frankly outdated.
So we would expect for this extension to go a year, and then we'd have a new
Yes.
IGA that would carry on for 4 more years to carry out the term of the levy.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I'm a bit concerned. I would find it's appropriate to adjust the funding formula in advance of renewing a levy, not after the levy's approved. I'm really quite concerned that that is the approach that's being taken, in fact.
Joe sits on the executive board, so he might be able to speak to this more, but my understanding is that there will be no adjustments that would actually reduce the amount that we receive. We're guaranteed to receive at least the same percentage that was agreed upon and that we have currently. It's really just how the pool 2 funds are distributed, I believe. Joe, with your experience on the executive board, do you want to jump in?
So I think actually, Mayor, this extra time to look at this and take a deep dive, actually, I think is getting exactly to what you want to do to make sure that this really gets looked at thoroughly and doesn't just arbitrarily get kicked forward again. Part of this is COVID as well. They felt that they didn't want to rush to do this, so they wanted to buy 1 more year and kind of buy the time to do the deep dive as Kristen has suggested. And I think we should go into the current IGA and how the funding is handled to make sure council understands that, and you can give me direction as a member of the executive board, what kind of changes, if any, about funding you want to see from a council. So I think this is actually a better situation than normally, where they would just be asking for another 4 or 5 year renewal. Because I know you've had some concerns about how the funding is handled. So I don't know if that addresses your concerns or not, or you still have concerns.
Well, the biggest concern I have is in re-looking at are we at risk of losing revenue? I mean, if you're re-looking the formula, then I mean, with just that statement, anything's possible.
Yeah, I think certainly anything is possible. The intent is not to lose the formula. And I think the executive committee, when they look at this all the time, the fairness issue comes up about how this money is divvied up around the county. So, and that's just going to take time to dig into that because everyone's fighting over that money. I mean,
I know, but fundamentally, if you're going to look at this, you do it before you renew it. So everyone understands what you're getting, how it's doled out, so that then the community can weigh in and say, that's fair or that's not fair. Not, oh, here's, okay, everyone, we re-up for 5 years. Now, in theory, we're going to mess with this pool of money. And King City, sorry, but you know, you're not as worthy anymore for some reason because you're too old.
I don't believe that's the intent of this approach at all.
Doug, your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I just following up there. I felt like what I heard Kristen say was that she might have used the word guarantee. I don't want to say that, but I thought that's what I heard, that we won't lose funding. But then what I heard Joe say is that anything's possible and it could go down. So I feel like those statements were contradictory. So now I'm trying to understand what's actually true.
They could go down a year from now when you're considering a new 5-year extension of this IGA. It's not going to go down in the next year.
Well, yeah, obviously. I thought it was clear we were talking about beyond the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the wrong way to do business. And that's my firm opinion that any change should impact the next levy. But Tim?
Oh, I was just going to add the same concern, and just a reminder for council and those that might be listening in that the vast majority of our library is funded through that mechanism. And if it were to drop, that would mean the city would have to pick up the bill. So it is a big concern. And I agree with Keith's sentiment. This should have been addressed as part of the levy that we just renewed, not after the fact.
Yeah. Other thoughts, comments? I think today.
Yeah, I agree with the concern. It's sort of like we've approved this levy, the citizens have approved this levy, and now we'll find out what's in the levy. Like, let's approve, the bill and then read the bill kind of thing. But at this point, I don't know that we have a choice other than, to move forward with what it is.
Part of me wants to say my personal expectation is any change that they want to make would be effective with the next levy. I mean, when you're playing with dollars after the fact, someone's getting shorted. Someone's going to be a winner. Someone's going to be a loser. It might be a nickel. It might be a dime. It might be a whole lot more.
What's the purpose? Why are they doing this right now?
Because the current agreement ends June 30th, 2021.
But why are they saying we need to look at the formula now?
They're not looking at the formula now. I think people are confused. They're basically saying keep the formula the way it is, extend this levy or extend this IGA one more year. And in that year, let's look at the future levy, which could be changes. They're not changing anything in this. This is only buying one more year.
When is the current levy running out?
This levy ends at the end of this fiscal year. And so we're buying a year into our next 5-year levy period.
Because we just renewed the levy, right?
Correct.
Right. So we just voted as a community, as a county, to renew the levy under the old formula for 5 years.
And I will say, of course, the amount that's collected from the taxpayers, this doesn't impact that at all. And there's many components to the IGA, not just the formula. So they're really just looking at how business is operating. And they've changed the formula over the years, even in the middle of IGAs, just in how they figure out distribution. Because they used to throw in their door count and everybody was taking a look at that differently. And so that didn't seem like a fair way to do it. So this is really just an opportunity for each city to weigh in by members of the executive board and say, look, this is how we've been doing things. Does this make sense? So we will have, and they want to leave a lot of time for that process and make sure that we have a say in it. And there's different committees within this process that are going to evaluate different issues within the IGA.
So I think we have no choice but to pass this, but then I would like to have more or less a follow-up resolution for council to consider next month that says it's our expectation that no change on the money side happens with any until the next levy before the next levy is voted on or renewed type thing. Because we're expecting a certain revenue stream for the next 6 years, and there's gonna be winners and losers when they tweak with that formula. It's guaranteed. So, other thoughts or comments? Motion.
I think it's important that we make our position known as the executive committee goes into this process. For sure.
Anything else? Do we want to act on this? Is there a deadline to act on this, or is there someone want to make a motion or not?
I move resolution 2021-013, authorizing the city manager to sign a contract amendment with Washington County on behalf of Washington County Cooperative Library Services, WCCLS, to
I'll
extend.
second. Oh, sorry.
It's a long time. Go ahead.
To extend the Public Library Services Agreement and Information Services Network Agreement.
I'll second.
The second discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, council. Joe, can we work on a letter?
Yes,
Resolution?
yes.
Awesome. Any other feedback on the potential resolution? Hearing none. Thank you, council. Thanks, Joe. City manager report.
Mayor and council, I think I'm going to turn it over to Craig to provide details, but obviously we've experienced winter the last few days. I think Sherwood has done relatively well compared to many of our neighbors. And I want to give kudos to Craig Sheldon and his public works crew for all the work they've done on our streets and everything. And I'm going to turn it over to Craig to talk about any specifics he might want to share about the city in responding to the storm and answer any questions council might have. Craig, also, I just saw a headline that Aurora, their reservoir is full now, thanks to our support. So you might want to talk about that as well. So are you on the line, Craig?
I am, Joe. Thank you. Mayor and council, just an update. We did spend about $18,000 in plowing, de-icer for this event, getting our facilities, the ones that were open, prepared for each day that they weren't closed. We also helped deliver some meals yesterday to the seniors that part of the meals program with Community Service Department. We have several trees throughout the community that We're dealing with health of trees right now. So we'll be having our arborists come in probably later this week and doing an evaluation. We'll probably end up removing about 100 to 125 yards of trees. That'll be chipped next week in our yard. So we don't have a ton of room in the yard, but we do bring them back. We try to chip them to actually get a better price on disposal. So what I can tell you is I don't have a staff cost of what the tree removal is going to look like for the rest of the week, but we should be wrapping up most of the street work tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll move into our parks and trail system and hopefully have those done by the end of the weekend or Monday. And then we'll have a crew that'll be chipping next week in our yard to dispose of it. So overall, we actually fared really good compared to other cities. As Joe talked about, Aurora, they were down their wells, I believe last Thursday. Both their wells went down and they were looking for a generator, which we have a generator. We supplied them, one of our larger ones. That's a regional asset. We took it down, offered some help. They had an electrician there. They hooked it up. They had to make some adjustments on their side. They were able to fill their reservoirs. They were being told at that time they wouldn't have power till Thursday. So they were down to just a few 100,000 gallons of water. So they'll continue to use that. I expect another update from Mark, your public works director here, probably tomorrow or the next day when we can get that back. But for right now, that's where we're at. Be more than happy to answer any questions, but we do have a lot of trees that are damaged, and I'm sure some of them are going to have to come down as we move forward and replanted. So
Craig, you said that's a regional asset. Could you say a little bit more? What do you mean by a regional asset?
So we store it, we get to use it. And really what that is back in the day when we had emergency management position, they actually applied for grants, and that's how we got that. And we got that in a bunch of our traffic light trailers because we actually took the time to apply for grants back in the day because we had the position to do it. And that's how we got those pieces of equipment. We store it. We store a barricade trailer that we can use on Highway 99, but it's a regional asset. Hillsborough uses it every year for the air show. We store them, we get to use them. So that's really what it is, Joe, on that.
Okay, thank you.
We don't spend the money. We got to carry the insurance and stuff like that, but we have it here. So if the power goes down somewhere and we need to actually make the connection, most of our systems got generators on for backup for our water system, but we would be able to actually use that generator to help get stuff lit back up.
Great job, Craig. You and your team did a fantastic job prepping for the bad weather, then managing over the weekend, long days, long nights. Our roads, when I was out and about Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we're in remarkably good shape. And I ventured outside of town and did not see the same. So
yeah,
just
very true on that.
Yeah. So to say that, and kudos for helping out Aurora and their significant time of need. There's all sorts of challenges in Clackamas County and other parts of Oregon with this ice event. So great job.
So yeah, they definitely got hit a lot harder in Clackamas than we did. So they got a lot of damage, it sounds like. Any other questions on the event? I'll have total costs to Joe probably sometime next week. He can share with you of the event, but I would say it's, depending on the damage of the trees, it'll be under $50,000, I would think. So we actually lucked out pretty good.
So at this point, the crews are taking care of street trees that came down primarily, and now you're going to the parks and trails after this.
Yeah, so I'm hoping tomorrow afternoon they'll finish up with the street trees that we actually can do something without having our arborists come in and evaluate. We had a tree fall on the side of a house from one of our open spaces. We had damage to fences. We had trees come down at well number 3 there at Pine and Willamette, damage a chunk of fence there. But yes, I'm hoping the street part of it we get cleaned up by tomorrow, and then the next couple days leading into Monday, we get our parks and trails back cleaned up.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Craig. Any
You
other comments from council? Great. Joe?
That's all I had. I know Rep. Courtney Neuron is waiting and you still have council updates. So any questions for me on anything else?
No? Good job. And I didn't hear of any sirens really happening over the weekend, so that's generally a positive too for us, I thought.
Mayor, we did try to get to our secondary streets, but by the time we got our other roads cleaned up, the secondary streets, it was just more, we were making more ice than we were doing any work. So we backed off that. So if you hear the community talk about that, that's really the reason, is because we were making it worse than what it was. So by the time we got there.
Excellent point. Appreciate the comment, Craig. Yeah, there's only secondary are nice, but it's not always possible.
I think the one other thing that has affected everybody in town is garbage service was delayed. For most people, it's a 1-day delay, fortunately, but for some of us like myself, last Friday was collection day and it is not going to happen until this Saturday. So we'll have 8 days without 8 additional days. But I know Pride made the decision for safety to not collect, and I think that was the right decision. And people will be able to put extra bags out without being charged, and everyone will get caught up. But that certainly had an impact citywide as well.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah, so if you still have your garbage at the curb, you can bring it in until it's not. The last update I had was Friday. It was just bounced a full week. But is it bounced to Saturday?
Yeah, everything got shifted this week 1 day. So if you
Right.
have Friday, you missed last Friday, which means you won't have it till Saturday.
Right.
So there's a few portions in town that seriously got affected, and we'll have a lot of garbage. But most of the city is only a 1-day delay.
So Joe, could you work with Pride and maybe get something out on social media that they're not going to charge for extra bags? Because that's a concern that's been floating around quite a bit on social media.
So we've been posting their statements, but we will make that clear that there won't be an extra charge if you're hearing that, Counselor. In all their updates, they have said that, but we'll make sure that's very clear.
Good.
Yeah, I've seen it on all their social media posts that it's no charge.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Joe. Council announcements.
I'll go.
Great.
Let's see. So we have another joint session with the Planning Commission on March 2nd. We will talk about the 5th block of the comprehensive plan, connected and coordinated infrastructure. I'm connected, but I'm definitely not coordinated. We also have on the 16th, the Park and Rec Master Plan, woohoo, is coming to its first public hearing to the council on 3/16. That's what I've got. And again, I already emailed Craig about this over the weekend or yesterday. What a great job. I did the same thing. I drove around our streets every day. I did it before and I saw the de-icer on the road. I did it during because I love it. It was so much fun. And they were out all the time. And I thought they did an amazing job. And I too traveled through a couple of other cities to get some other place. And it was the worst was when I went to get a Diet Coke at a local restaurant. I nearly collided with the building and the drive up because there was so much ice. That was like the worst part. If Craig could handle that next time, I would really appreciate it. And that was it. But kudos to the staff and the crew. And honestly, also the citizens, because I saw a lot of people getting out and dragging the trees off to the side. On Sunset on Saturday, I think he was Clackamas County Deputy Sheriff, paused. He put his lights on because a tree had fallen, back over the fence onto Sunset. And I just felt like everybody was watching out for everybody else. And it was great. And the snow was wonderful. So thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Russell.
I'll go.
Or Kim?
Oh. Yeah, I knew there was a son of a former counselor and his friend going around with their truck and a chainsaw, just driving by people's houses, not for any money, to say, hey, do you want me to help you chop, those trees down or whatever's fallen, make it into smaller pieces. So I just thought that was great. The only thing I have is we, last time I talked about, we had the community development block grant presentations and the funding, the scoring came out on those. And just to give some idea of what that money is going to go for this year, the money is going to go for community action for eviction court prevention, and another group called Forest Grove Foundation, which is a coalition on rural homelessness. So out in like the Forest Grove area, they don't really have a lot of homelessness resources. So it's going to be a coalition helping with that. Good Neighbor Center is going to get some funding for work to housing program that they do to help those staying in their program get training or through medical training or through the trades or whatnot, so that once they get into their own housing, they're stable. And then another one was St. Vincent de Paul, St. Anthony's, which is a rent and utility assistance program. So that's just the public services portion. There's also a home portion, and funding for those this year went to 2 affordable housing projects, one in Tualatin and one in Tigard, which will be for seniors, the one in Tigard. So I know I don't talk about a lot of what those funds are going for, so I just thought I would give a little update on that. So
Awesome. Thanks,
that's
Kim.
all.
Doug, you had your hand up next. Unless you had to step away for a sec. There you are.
Sorry. Well, I think Russell stole most of my thunder, but he did mention the Parks and Rec Master Plan coming to council in March. But before it comes to council, it will come to Planning Commission. So next week, in 1 week from tonight, Planning Commission public hearing on the Parks and Rec Master Plan. So right here on this YouTube channel. And submit your comments in person 24 hours ahead of time.
Thanks, Doug. Renee?
Yeah, first, Kib, thanks for the work that you're doing on the CDBG grant. I know it's a lot of reading and understanding and scoring and such, so thank you for that. Craig, thank you for you and your team. As everybody's already stated, Sherwood was in really, really good shape as someone who was going back and forth to Tigard each day during the snowstorm. I can attest to the difference in the communities. As far as my report, the Senior Advisory Committee met last week, and there was a presentation by the library staff about some of the senior programs. So it's really nice to see how the different departments coordinate together, because I also sit on the library advisory board, and we're meeting tomorrow. So I liked seeing that reciprocity. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee. Sean?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Since the last meeting, we met with the Cultural Arts Commission. It was actually last night. They've got some exciting public art stuff in the works, so stay tuned for that. I think it was since the last meeting, the Willamette Intake Facility meeting. Maybe that was before this last one, I don't know. And then actually since our last meeting too, I think everybody's probably aware. I know the city has shared this on our social media. Washington County has as well, but I think everyone's aware that last Friday we moved from the extreme risk to the high risk group, which opens up some of the capabilities. And Keith, I hope I'm not stealing too much of your thunder here if you're going to plan on talking about this, but that does allow us some inside dining options. So if you are comfortable with that, and I know that our local restaurants are doing everything they can to stay as safe as possible, but if you're comfortable, please do get out there and support some of those local businesses, as well as some of our other facilities that are now able to open in smaller capacities. So check it out and help those small businesses as you can. The timing of this ice storm this last weekend was extremely unfortunate for a lot of restaurants that were gearing up and stocking up for reopening again. So please help them out if you can. That's all I've got.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Tim? You're muted.
That's twice tonight I've done that. I apologize. I got a few things I wanted to cover really quickly. I attended the Willamette River Water Coalition meeting last week. And for those of you that don't know, the WRWC has 4 member cities, ourselves, Tualatin, King City, and 3 cities, not King City, Tualatin, Tigard, Sherwood, and the Tualatin Valley Water District. Anyways, they own the water rights that allow us to get water out of the river to use for our cities, and they advocate on behalf of that. So we had a meeting to talk about that and talk about water rights going out 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, which is interesting. I also attended the Special District Association of Oregon their annual meeting as a representative of the WRWC. That was an interesting conference, much like the LOC, the League of Oregon Cities. I also just wanted to briefly mention, I got volunteered by our mayor, Mr. Mays, to sit on a working group. You may remember back in August that there was a rush to put a levy on the ballot to raise money to offer after-school programs for kids. And that was squashed at that point, mainly because, well, two main reasons, but the big one was there was very little outreach into the region about what that should look like and whether we should do it or not. And the other reason that some people were a little concerned about it is it would hit the city side tax structure instead of the school side tax structure. So this working group is an effort to get input from the communities around us and see if there's a willingness to put something on the November ballot. So as that starts to get some steam and I understand more about what people are thinking about it, I'll bring that back to council so we can weigh in as a community on what we think about any potential levy this November. And then I just want to, on the COVID-19 side, I just want to add, everyone keep up the great work. Our numbers have been dropping like a rock. In fact, the fastest I've ever seen them drop in the last month. As Sean mentioned, we're now in the high risk category. We are in good shape. If we continue on the trend we're in, we have a chance of dropping another category the next round. We're averaging 42 cases. Our 7-day average is 42 cases in Washington County a day. And if we can keep it that or below, that'll drop us down again this next cycle. So everybody keep up the great work and let's keep pushing the needles in the right direction. And then the last thing I was going to say, I have to throw in my kudos to Public Works too. It's just amazing the work they've done on our roads. I was out driving around in it. I noticed the differences between the different cities and Sherwood. Just kudos to that team, their leadership and the great work they do. So really appreciate it. And I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Tim. Yes, great news with the pandemic, with businesses opening up, with people getting vaccinated. If you're eligible, get vaccinated, please. When your number's called in the coming weeks, get vaccinated, please. I know it's not the smoothest process. Help your parents, help your family to make that happen. This Saturday, City Council is having goal setting, so that's great to have that happening. Thank Tim for covering for me, volunteering in my place with the one regional discussion about potential levy. Had WCCC. Tim actually sat in case I need him to cover for me at a future meeting, and so that was great, fairly uneventful. LOC stuff, we had supposed to have an LOC board meeting tomorrow and one of my roundtable things tonight, and they were both canceled because LOC offices in Salem, no power. Most employees for LOC are in counties and communities that have no power. So we definitely had to make some adjustments there. So that's all I got. Yeah, kudos to Craig, your team, and the community for helping neighbors, helping each other. I live near Snyder Park, and the hillside was just alive with squeals of joy and laughter. That was just outstanding. Kids having a grand old time, sliding up and down, hiking up and down the ice and a little bit of snow. So that was way cool to have that in the background on a nice wintry day. And now it's all melted away. So with that, we will adjourn and reconvene our work session. Thank you, everyone.